Hello, this is Riley Porter with Seattle Sumo. You are listening to a commentary track for the 1964 Natsu Basho. That is the May contest. The video coverage for this tournament can be found on the Japan Sumo Association's YouTube channel. There will be a link for that below, and accessed with a $9 monthly membership. As usual, to sync up this audio commentary with the video playback, I will count backwards from 3, 3, 2, 1. As I hit the end in 1, I will click play on the video coverage. You'll do the same and we'll be in sync for the day's action. Without any further ado, I will start the countdown and get us going. 3, 2, 1. Futabayama, Taiho, Chianofuji, Archive. First third of the basho is done. We are entering day 6. Already 2 of our Yokozuna have taken a loss. Well, first up, here's Juryo guest Asa Segawa. He made his top division debut in the last tournament. Didn't go super well. Up against Tochi Oyama. Tochi Oyama rushes in, gets the front of the belt there. Asa Segawa trying to cut inside with that left, but he can't get in there just there. Tochi Oyama's doing well to pinch his arm into his side there. Asa Segawa's got the outside right. He's busting in, drops his hips, and finishes Tochi Oyama Yoritaoshi. Forward crush out. Well, Asa Segawa ending day 6 with 5-1 scores, looking pretty solid. Perhaps he'll be back to the top division as early as next basho. Not too bad for a recent debutee. Tochi Oyama, meanwhile, falls to 2-4, and now it's a 2-1 head-to-head in Asa Segawa's favor. Now we have Tsune Nishiki in his second match ever with Kitano Kuni. Shinyu Maku, brand new to the division. And that last meeting did go the way of Kitano Kuni. Kitano Kuni blasts in a bit of a Kachiage forearm blast there. Going right into the chest of Tsune Nishiki, and he brings him to the ring's edge before too long and finishes him Yorikiri. Kitano Kuni evens up his record at 3-3 coming out of day 6. Tsune Nishiki falls to 2-4. Kitano Kuni still with a chance for Kachikoshi on his top division debut. Be a pretty good result, all things considered. Here's Iwakaze up against Waka Chichibu. They're both in pretty good shape, both very experienced. They've had time at the Sekiwake rink before. It's an 8-5 head-to-head in Waka Chichibu's favor. Even start. They're both on the belt now. I think Iwakaze's stance is slightly better. Waka Chichibu's left arm is without Mawashi. He's just settling for an arm lock. But he is inside deep with the right. Bit of a standoff now, these two in the middle. Catching their breath and waiting. Iwakaze doesn't like to overcommit, but he's already in pretty deep with Waka Chichibu. He's had better luck than most in breaking into Iwakaze's defense. Yeah, waiting each other out to check their breathing and so forth. I mentioned before Iwakaze Shikona, his ring name, I think is derived in part from his stable's old name, or at least a temporary name that it was under, Nishiiwa. Of course, now it's the Wakamatsu stable. Waka Chichibu, meanwhile, of course, the Waka comes from Wakanohana, a senior at his Hanakago stable that he fought side by side with. And the Chichibu comes from his own hometown of Chichibu in Saitama Prefecture. So there's a little background on these two Dikishi, their names, where they're coming from. Of course, the Wakamatsu stable and the Hanakago stable aren't directly affiliated. Hanakago branched off from Nishonoseki, Wakamatsu from Takasago stable. They're in different Ichimon altogether. Iwakaze tries to break in. A grip change attempt from Waka Chichibu trying to cut inside with the left. Iwakaze frustrates that. Goes back inside with the right. Waka Chichibu at least would like the outside grip, but can't get that even. So Iwakaze remains, I think, in a favorable stance. Waka Chichibu's not too impatient. Though it's fair to say his stamina is probably not quite as good as Iwakaze's. Waka Chichibu is a As it happens, he is diabetic, so his energy levels can fluctuate a bit. You saw in the last boss show. In the one prior, he was looking a little less than 100%. That'd be part of the reason. Though certainly in this contest, he's looked very solid so far. Trying to cut in again with that left, but can't do it. Iwakaze's got a tight grip. A foot sweep attempt there from Iwakaze, and then he follows up with a rush to the edge. Wakachichibu saves himself and walks them both back into the middle, so the standoff continues. We're kind of where we were like a couple of minutes ago. Though if these Dikishi drag on too long, they will take a break. That'll be at the 4-minute mark, though, so it's a very, very long time in sumo terms. Another attempt at an inside leg sweep from Iwakaze. Bit of a, I think they'd call that a keikaeshi. Minor inside foot sweep. Well, Iwakaze, his leg trip attempts have been thwarted. Maybe he'll commit to that or try something else. Oh, a lift from Wakachichibu. Doesn't quite go off, but he keeps his feet to the ground, drops his hips, and finishes Iwakaze Yorikiri. Wakachichibu finishes day 6 with a 6-0 record. His best start in quite a while, giving Iwakaze his second loss. Well, Wakachichibu, he looks to be in very good condition. The best in a long time. Gets a little bit of prize money there to cap things off. Here is Koto Zakura up against Husanishiki. The head-to-head is 3-0 in Koto Zakura's favor. Both are sitting at 2-3 coming into today. Husanishiki uncharacteristically jumps backwards at the Tachiai, trying to evade Koto Zakura before cutting in double inside and finishing Sarugatake's Tatikishi Yorikiri. Well, Fusanishiki had to really go outside of himself to pick up his first win against Koto Zakura in 4 attempts. Rather than coming out like a bullet, he went backwards, trying to dodge Koto Zakura before going double inside, which is really not his style. He's a pusher, not a belt fighter, but there it is, Fusanishiki's win. Now it's Tamanoshima, a relative newcomer to this division, top man for Kata Onami stable, up against Kane no Hana. It's a 1-0 head-to-head in Tamanoshima's favor. Tamanoshima starts with some push on the chest, but Kane no Hana is the one that really given the Tsupari. Now it's going back and forth. They're both slapping, pushing on the chest. And finally they're on the belt. At least Tamanoshima is. He's inside left and inside right. It's Morozashi for Tamanoshima. Kane no Hana is in a little bit of trouble now. Tamanoshima inches them to the edge. Oh. But it looks like Kane no Hana was able to plant his heels in the ring's edge there. And by bending his torso a bit, let Tamanoshima slip past him. So, I suppose they might call that a takikomi, a slap down, or hikiotoshi, a pull down. In any event, Kane no Hana gets that win on the back foot, evens up his head-to-head with Tamanoshima, 1-1. Here is former Ozeki Waka Haguro up against old rival Deiwan Ishiki. They've had 26 meetings. Waka Haguro has won 21 of them. He's the odds-on favorite. A false start there from Deiwan Ishiki. Little odd considering Deiwan Ishiki's one to hang back most of the time, let the wrestler come to him. And he more or less does that this time out, ducking his head in low and receiving Waka Haguro's charge, and he's done well enough to defend himself, but Waka Haguro looks pretty determined, brings him to the edge. Not a great stance there. Deiwan Ishiki manages to cut inside with a left, and then planting his right arm under the armpit, Hazuoshi shoves out Waka Haguro, Yorihiri. Well, Deiwan Ishiki, the tactician, very much on form this boss show. He moves to 4-2. Could be in for another Kachikoshi. He got an 8-7 in the last tournament. Waka Haguro, meanwhile, falls to 2-4. Deiwan Ishiki overcoming the odds of their previous encounters. Well, here's Wakanami, the strong lifter from Tatsunami stable, up against Kainoyama. It's a 3-0 head-to-head in Wakanami's favor. Wakanami bumps in with the chest, and then getting his hand on the outside right, he spins about, crashing down Kainoyama Uwatenage. Pretty forceful all-out sumo from Wakanami there. You saw how hard he hit on the Tachiai. One should not be deceived by his stature. He's as strong as any of his compatriots. His peers here in the top division, he moves to 5-1 and stays clean against Kainoyama. It's 4-0 head-to-head in Wakanami's favor. Here's Waka Naruto from the Kasugano stable. Same as Tochi Hikari, Tochi Naomi up against Waka no Kuni. It's a 3-3 head-to-head, even between these two. Man, a bit of fighting for position. Waka no Kuni's pushing on the chest. Waka Naruto dodges to the side, dances around, and gets the front of the belt from Waka no Kuni. Now he's pulling away and slapping down the neck. Waka no Kuni loses his footing, collapses. Waka Naruto gets the win. Now I think they might call that for like maybe a Shitate Dashinage, pulling underarm throw. Something like that. It was definitely Waka Naruto's fleet-footedness and crafty belt work that won him the day, moving to 3-3 and pulling ahead in his head-to-head rivalry with Waka no Kuni. Here's Hagoroyama up against Waka Tenryu. This is their first time meeting. Hagoroyama and Waka Tenryu have shared the division before, but not this close in rank in the past. Waka Tenryu wanted to cut inside with that right, but was frustrated, and now he has to settle for an inside left. Meanwhile, Hagoroyama really wrenched up under the armpits there. Waka Tenryu trying to adjust the grip again, keep out Hagoroyama's left, and he looks like he's done that successfully, gripping on the front of the belt there. Tries a foot sweep, doesn't quite come off. Hagoroyama barrels in. Hips are a little high, though, to be committed to an all-out attack. Waka Tenryu really wrenching up the front of the belt there, keeping his head dug in under the chin of Hagoroyama. Well, not much you can do from here besides rush forward. It's probably what Waka Tenryu would like to do. Now he's pulling back a bit. Hagoroyama's putting on the pressure. Now Waka Tenryu is moving forward, trying to make the most out of this belt grip. Hagoroyama cupping up on the arms here, leaning on the younger man. Bit of a stalemate at the moment. Hagoroyama really wants to cut in. You can see how Waka Tenryu is flexing his elbows there, flaring them out, preventing Hagoroyama from getting too close to his belt. An attempt at a foot sweep from Waka Tenryu doesn't get much of a reaction from Hagoroyama. Hagoroyama, the second Dikishita fighter to that name. The previous Hagoroyama is his coach, now Tatsunami Oyakata, one time a Yokozuna. Won 7 championships, a real one of the all-time greats from Tatsunami. Waka Tenryu sweeps the Sagari out with his foot, and then tries to sweep Hagoroyama's foot, to no avail yet again. Waka Tenryu seems to lack the requisite power to really upset Hagoroyama's balance, despite being dug inside so deep. Waka Tenryu has been to this division. His first appearance here was several years ago. Of course, he was one of the Hanakago Shichiwaka. 7 Wakas from Hanakago stable, all ranked together in the top division at the same time. Just for a run of a few basho. But Waka Tenryu has never really made it too high up the Banzuke. This is close enough to his peak rank, I think. Another foot sweep attempt from Waka Tenryu. Well, he managed to hook the ankle a bit there and get a bit further, but couldn't quite move Hagoroyama. Hagoroyama reaches for that outside right. Can't get it. Well, patient is the veteran. Hagoroyama doesn't want to rush anything before he gets that belt grip. Waka Tenryu breathing hard. This is definitely a long one. Waka Tenryu digs in, drives forward, almost gets shaken, and pushed off finally. Hagoroyama breaks the grip. He's pushing on the chest. Hands to hands now. Waka Tenryu gets the front of the belt, and at the very last moment, manages to keep his heels in while thrusting down while Hagoroyama. It looks like it went the way of Waka Tenryu. A thrust down as he was being driven to the edge. But the camera angle here suggests that Hagoroyama gets the win. Well, it all happened so quickly, but a good effort from Waka Tenryu, certainly. Looked like he was pretty close to saving himself. In any event, Hagoroyama picks up his second win here on day 6. He wins his first encounter with Waka Tenryu. Hard-fought struggle. Fujinishiki is up against Hagurogawa, a pusher against a lifter. It's a 7-4 head-to-head in Hagurogawa's favor. Fujinishiki want to keep him off his belt. And Hagurogawa's reaching. Couldn't sync up the grip, though. Fujinishiki gets to driving forward and finishes things. Oshidashi. Well, the Tachi-ai wasn't overly convincing, but he recovered. Did Fujinishiki. Managed to keep Hagurogawa just barely. He came very close to scraping by, but he kept him off his belt and shoved him out. Now it's a 7-5 head-to-head in Hagurogawa's favor. Fujinishiki closing the gap a bit, picking up his second win. Well, the Shinpan are shuffling out. That's the end of the first half of today's action. Had a couple of long ones in there. Some of these Dikishi that are, after the first few days action, we kind of get a really good sense of where everyone is, condition-wise, score-wise, and we can pair up Dikishi that are a bit closer to each other in terms of ability and condition, at least for this basho. Now it's Kitano Fuji against Sawa Hikari. 3-1 head-to-head in Sawa Hikari's favor. It's Tsupari to start with. Sawa Hikari pushing on the chest, Kitano Fuji returning the favor. Now Kitano Fuji's inside with that left. That's his strong grip. Sawa Hikari's got the outside right. Inside left deep is Sawa Hikari. And that Sotogake outside leg trip from Kitano Fuji on the left. Secures him the win. He crushes Sawa Hikari. Moves to his 5th win in 6 days. He's looking very good. He should be back in the Sonyaku certainly before the year is out. Wouldn't be horribly surprising to see him put on a performance worthy of immediate repromotion. We'll see. In any event, that's his 2nd win against Sawa Hikari in 5 meetings. Here's one of our Oyakata. I wish I knew who all of them were off the top of my head. Sadly not the case. In any event, here is Toyokuni from the Tokitsukaze stable up against Ogi no Hana. They're both 1-4 coming into today, but it's a 5-3 head-to-head in Ogi no Hana's favor. Toyokuni is pushing on the throat. Nodowa. A fierce attack. He doesn't back down. Ogi no Hana is trying to close the distance, get in on that belt. Toyokuni backpedaling, shoving at the throat. Back on the offensive is Toyokuni. But Ogi no Hana is in over with the right and sends Toyokuni out. Yoritaoshi. Well, hard fought from both these strugglers. Ogi no Hana gets his 2nd win. Brings his head-to-head with Toyokuni to 6-3. Well, you see, that's how that's the only way you can really respond to a thrusting attack, besides trying to move laterally, dodge to the side, is really sticking your chest out and just shoving forward. If you can close the distance, you can reduce the power and take a thruster completely by surprise, as was done with Toyokuni there. Well, by surprise, I should say, it gives you the overwhelming advantage, certainly. Here is Kairyu-yama on the right against Aono Sato on the left. It's an 8-6 head-to-head in Kairyu-yama's favor. Aono Sato dodges to the side, hooks the arm, and finishes Kairyu-yama Kote Nage, arm lock throw. Well, a little smartly played by Aono Sato. Not exactly purist sumo, you could say, dodging at the Tachi-ai, but he knew what he wanted to do. Kairyu-yama having the slight edge in their head-to-head. Well, Kairyu-yama Shinseki Wake falls to 3-3 on his debut at this high rank. Hard to say if he'll be able to stick it at this point. Here's our first Ozeki match for today. It's Kitabayama. He's 5 straight and up against Myobudani. Their head-to-head is fairly close. They've had 11 matches. Kitabayama has won 6 of them. So Myobudani could even things up today at a great cost to Kitabayama, who will surely be driven to win. Kitabayama's got the outside right. Myobudani is deep. Overarm on the right, inside with the left. Kitabayama wiggling his hips a bit, trying to keep the belt from getting too tightly gripped. Swinging is Kitabayama. Trying for a lift is Myobudani, but not at a good angle here. Kitabayama brings that low angle of attack. Or I should say it's a high angle. He's coming from a low position. He's a bit shorter than Myobudani. Gives him the opportunity to push up on him. And now it's a 7-5 head-to-head in Kitabayama's favor, I should say. Well, you can see why Kitabayama would have trouble with Myobudani. Myobudani likes Dikishi that are a lot shorter than him. Makes it so he can leverage his height. And you can lift most anyone, especially someone like Kitabayama who isn't like overly heavy. Here is Kiyokuni, wearing his Oicho, his full-on Kinku Leaf Chonmage, his top knot, is in proper order. Up against Ozeki Tochihikari, looking solid for this tournament where he is in danger of demotion. They've had one meeting and it has gone the way of Kiyokuni. We'll see if Sawahikari can even things up. Sawahikari dodging to the side. Kiyokuni trying to move in with the left. He's got the left-handed grip, but is, well, not totally thrown down, but I think it's fair to call that a Sukuinage, an underarm, or a beltless arm throw, I should say. Tochihikari slipped his arm under Kiyokuni's pit and just drug him to the edge and out of the ring. Kiyokuni stepped out, avoiding injury. Tochihikari moves to 5-1. Looks like he's set to save his rank. Should be an Ozeki for a little bit while still. Here is Tsurugamine. He's had 12 meetings with today's opponent, Sadanoyama. 9 of those have gone the way of Sadanoyama. These are both pretty versatile Dikishi. Tsurugamine, a technical marvel. Sadanoyama, a pretty well-rounded Dikishi. Sadanoyama gets to pushing. Nodowa, throat thrusting. Tsurugamine, he holds on at the edge, moves onto the belt and brings them back into the middle. He's sliding around a bit, trying to find good footing here. Inside with the right, outside with the left. A leg trip. Doesn't work. Sadanoyama. He's solid. Tsurugamine looks like he's in a bit of trouble here. I'm sure he'd like to cut in with the left, but Sadanoyama is no doubt going to be able to see that coming. They're both solid on the belt. I'd say Sadanoyama is definitely primarily a belt fighter, despite a pretty good Tsupari. Tsurugamine, where else would he rather be? Well, he'd rather have a double inside grip. He's really the master of Morozashi. But with one inside, one outside, he should still be able to win, certainly. Locked up here. Tsurugamine, the sole representative for the Izutsu stable here in the top division, which is part of the Tokitsukaze Ichimon, the current iteration or the current incarnation of Izutsu stable branched off from Tokitsukaze, though the lineage that Tsurugamine comes from was really started by the original Nishinoomi, Takasago Yokozuna, making the original Izutsu stable, at least for the 20th century Takasago branch off, but that's a ways in the past now. Izutsu is firmly in the Tokitsukaze camp. Unlike Sadanoyama, of course, he's head of the Dewanoumi stable in terms of Dikishi. Dewanoumi at one time, basically half of pro sumo was dominated by that stable. A couple of decades back, they fought in an east-west system, sort of a team competition, and there was really a good amount of time where Dewanoumi was basically one side in and of itself, the other side being, the allied forces, Takasago, Izutsu, so on. Well, this stalemate's dragging on a bit. Not a lot of flashy movement here. These are both pretty patient, experienced Dikishi. Both in a solid enough position. And that Sorogake worked out. Tsurugamine putting on the leg hook and then hiking up that outside grip with the left, shifting Sadanoyama's weight onto that tripped up foot, securing his win. So a Sorogake victory for Tsurugamine. He gives Ozeki Sadanoyama his first loss of this Basho and picks up his third win, evening up his record. And he picks up his fourth win against Sadanoyama in 13 meetings. So, Tsurugamine, still sharp as ever. Ozeki Yutakayama, not exactly looking 100%, already at 3-2 after 5 days of action. He's up against Maedagawa, whose only win so far has been against Taiho, otherwise losing all his matches. The head-to-head is 3-3. It's even. A fast start from Maedagao. He rushes across the line. But loses his footing as he shoves Yutakayama to the edge, collapsing to his knees. Well, I think they'll call that for Hataki Komi or Tsuki Otoshi. Victory for Yutakayama. There are times when they will rule a win or a loss, rather, to be a result of an inadvertent loss, like an Isamiyashi. That's where you step out of the ring when you're on the assault, rather than getting slipped or shoved out. I think, though, given the pace of the action, they'll call that for Yutakayama's win rather than Maedagawa's loss, if you know what I mean. Here is Yokozuna Kashiwado. He's the only one of the Yokozuna without a loss so far, and he's up against Sekiwake Daigo, looking in pretty poor shape. He's got 1-4 record. It is a 16-6 head-to-head in Kashiwado's favor. Kashiwado gets that shallow left grip. That's what he likes. Keeps moving forward and finishes Daigo Yoritaoshi, once again flying completely out of the ring over his opponent. You can see just how much of Kashiwado's strategy is built on overwhelming forward movement, just an all-out attack, proper dayashi, and a strong physique. But you can also see how someone like him in the wrong conditions can get slipped, though he has a very good ring sense, or more likely and more frequently injured, and that all-out attack just constantly shooting out of the ring into the front row. But he gets it done, man. 6-0. Now it's Hirokawa Shinkomosubi up against Yokozuna Taiho. They've had 2 meetings. Taiho has won both of them. Certainly the favorite for this match. Hirokawa's a thruster. He comes out and then dodges a bit to the side, doesn't want Taiho to get his belt, but Taiho doesn't need the belt. He just presses on the chest and shoves out Hirokawa Oshidashi. So Taiho reminding everybody that much of his success is based strictly on, well, I shouldn't say strictly, but much of it is founded in his really superhuman physique. I mean, he's a very well-built Dikishi, and he's very, very strong. Most he can take on from the front without really too much strategy or overthought belt work, you know. Here is our other Shinkomosubi, Wakamiyama, against Tochi They've had 1 meeting to date, and it went the way of Tochi Tochi has already taken a loss coming into today, but 1 loss isn't the end of the world. Big weight difference, as you can see here. Tochi rushes in, gets the front of the belt. Oh, this is going the Yokozuna's way. Inside with the left, keeping it shallow with the right. Wakamiyama, he's high-hipped, high-chested, and finished off Yorikiri. Well, Wakamiyama, I think he's used to being able to lean on an opponent, at least for a moment or two, but Tochi really didn't give him any time to rest or recover. Relentless forward attack. Once again, getting that shallow grip. Just fish hooking it, harpooning the front of the belt there is Tochi So he is very sharp. He's in it to win it, is this Yokozuna. Hard to say quite who the frontrunner for this basho is. Of course, I would say Taiho in general, but having already taken a loss, who is to say at this point? Well, in any event, thank you for joining me.